And you can't win that way. And you wind up without a job. Now, luckily for me, being without a job then wound up coming to 2 jobs that in a lot of ways kind of saved my life in ways. I started doing a radio show and I had a job as an adjunct professor. 2 more things that I had no idea what to do. So I'm teaching a class in African American Studies, and I had previously taught economics, but that's not hard. They give you a textbook, it's got chapters, you decide what chapters you want to teach, and then you teach the class. Cool. At another class, now I'm teaching this thing called The Black Athlete in America. I'm teaching this at Duke, and I called my father, and my father's a professor, and he asked me, so, what's the class going to be about? And I say to him, black athlete in America. Like, it's in the title. I don't really understand what this is that we need to discuss. And he said to me, well, there's got to be some direction. There's got to be some question. There's got to be some theoretical notion that you're trying to answer in the class. And he's telling me this 1 week before the syllabus is in. And I'm like, whoa, okay, I don't know what I'm doing again. And then at the same time, I go and do radio, and I get there. And right at the time I got there, there was a consultant in place who was trying to teach a whole lot of people who've been doing radio forever better ways for them to do their jobs. So everybody else there is resisting what he's talking about, but I'm there at the radio station, and they told me it was almost like Coming to America, where you start off washing lettuce, then one day they'll put you on the grill. They said, you're doing a Saturday show, and if you do this well, then this summer, you'll be hosting in the afternoon drive. Well, I didn't have a job for the summer. So if listening to this man was how I was going to have a job for the summer, then I was going to wind up listening to this man. And I was almost rigid about it. And what he taught me was how to get into commercial breaks, how to get things out, how to get people to listen to a segment, and when it was over, stay on and listen to the next segment. What he was gradually telling me was how to make a radio show that people would continue to listen to. And I had no choice but to listen to him. And so I did that. And so I started doing radio. And in the course of doing that, I started realizing that all these things that I thought were going to stop me from being creative were actually the things that unlocked my ability to be creative. Because it's hard to think about what you're saying if you're overloaded with thinking about how to say it. So for the first time in my life, I had gone into a project with the goal of developing the habits that I needed to have, with the goal of having the structure that I needed to have in order to do it right. And then once I had the structure in place, now I'm going in and I'm asking questions. It's no longer a matter of I'm going to start doing this and figure out what it is later. I was walking in with the question of how do I want this radio segment to feel? What do I want people to think about when I talk? Where do I want to go with this? And these are all things that I just seen as tasks that I had to do that were mundane and troublesome. But suddenly I got into it and I realized something. These were the things that I was supposed to do. And once I got a handle on the things that I was supposed to do, I now could do everything in the world that I wanted to do. So I had all these structures in place that I had to create a technically strong segment. And I realized something my dad had told me a long time ago, which was, let the tool do the work for you. You don't grab a screwdriver by the end with the Phillips head on it. You grab it at the back and you let the tool do the work for you. And everything that I thought that all these people were doing who were very organized was because they had to. Maybe they didn't have to. Maybe this was just unlocking the capabilities that they had. And I'd always thought I was just so capable that there was nothing to unlock. But for the first time in my life, I had really gone about understanding that I needed an approach. I needed a structure behind what I was doing. And every piece of work that I did after that got better. In the class I was teaching, once I had a structure for what the course was, I could go in there and talk about whatever I wanted. Being a professor is the closest thing to being a dictator that you're going to find in common life. I could go in there and talk about anything that I wanted because they knew ultimately where it was that we were supposed to go. And I realized something that I had missed in all those times where everybody else was doing what they were supposed to do and I was coming in later. They weren't making their lives harder. They were actually making their lives so much easier. Because once you had that grasp of what was important and what you must do, what you wanted to do became wide open and you could figure out how to actually do what you wanted to do. And then once you figured out what you could do, what you wanted to do, people might actually consume it. All the things that they were trying to teach me to do in writing were things to make it easier for people to appreciate what I was doing. All the things that I was learning to do in radio were making it easier for people to consume the product that I was giving. So it went from just being a creative person, but to being someone that people would actually hear. And it made me think about something that I learned. I did an interview with Aaron Magruder one year where he kept saying that I'm just a cartoonist, but he would always talk about the more that other people should do and they should be more socially active and everything else. And I asked him, but you say that you're just a cartoonist, and he told me, yes, I'm just a cartoonist, and that means that my job is to be funny. And once I'm funny, I can do everything else. But the last thing I want to be is one of those underground rappers who's talking about how good his stuff is, but nobody ever hears it. Magruder figured out early that once you did what you had to do, he was wide open to do everything else that he wanted to do. So you could be the wildly creative person that operates in his own space and doesn't do anything that's according to convention. Or you could be the sort of guy that operates like the Beatles operate, or the sort of guy that operates like Outkast does. And that's somebody who figures out what the structure is that is necessary to do something that people can consume, and then the wild range of creativity that you still have left. All the things that people tell you that you have to do, not all of them are correct. But most of them are things that you need to keep in mind. And most of them are things that you need to remember. And once you have those things in mind, you realize the tools that are behind you is not something that your teachers or your professors or your bosses told you because you had to do it. It's something they're telling you because it's going to make you better at what you do. It's something that's going to unlock what is inside of you. And the last thing that you can wind up doing is winding up in a situation where the ego that you have trumps the capabilities that you got. Not everybody out there is a sheep. Not everybody's out there just following behind what they've been told to do. A lot of those people have figured out what people like me figured out the hard way. Do what you're supposed to do, and then you'll be free to do everything else that you want to do. Thank you.